All right, good afternoon, everyone. We are going to go ahead and get started with our EdPlan SD virtual office hours for January 2026. We have a new feature with attending meetings with SCDE. So there's like a CAPTCHA that you have to do when you come into the lobby. So it's going to be a little bit different than our normal office hours where it's kind of, so we'll have people trickling in. So if for some reason you're having issues, let us know. So just some real quick things to start with, some upcoming events. The first one is the advanced reporting webinar. It's Beyond the Basics. So hopefully you've already attended a basics. You're a little familiar with AR and how it works. And this is a little more advanced. So if you haven't already viewed the basics one, I would definitely view that before you attend Beyond the Basics, because we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive with Nick and Beth that handle AR. And so just don't forget to register for that. And then the next one that we have coming up is the FIBA-BIP webinar. That's going to be February 18th. And this is kind of a joint effort between PCG. So it's going to be system, but also we have Isla and Lisa who will be spearheading that. And so kind of talking about guidance on what goes in the boxes as opposed to just how to go through the processes in EdPlan. So I know we already had over 100 people registered the last time I looked. So this is going to be a big one. Both of these will be recorded and shared out. The AR one, I will just send in an email to everyone because it's just for power users. And then the FIBA-BIP will be posted on the dashboard. And if you guys can just remember to mute yourselves as you're coming in. Also, we will be offering a pre-conference session at CEC. So this will be a collaborative effort between OSIS and PCG, and looking at using Progress Track. So that is a full day session. I'm also going to be doing a tips and tricks. I think it's Friday from 3 to 3:50. And that's just a brief little basics for people that are interested in learning more about EdPlan. So not going to be real in depth with 50 minutes. This is a bit more in depth with the Progress Track. Enrich historical documentation, getting that to you. This is where I'm at. I know what you know, and so there's been a delay in getting the documents. You know, and I've shared this out in the last LEA call. We've extended the time. We didn't purge anything like we had planned to. So more information as soon as I have information, I will flow that out to you guys to let you know
after day
how that's working
keep
with
going back and writing from it.
enriched
So that's probably
historical
a reason why
documents.
she didn't want to copy and send it home because it's like a cold. Almost like a.
All right, let's remember. Sherry's on it. We're trying to mute everyone. We've never had this much of a problem with muting. There is a mute all button. So maybe, yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Single sign-on. Single sign-on. So if you have not started utilizing single sign-on and you're wanting to move forward with integration, contact me. The next integration date will be January 27th of 2026. We have one district that's going to be going that day. We don't have a lot of districts left that aren't integrated. So we're going to be doing it kind of in waves. So our next one will be the 27th of January. Following that, the next time we will be doing an integration will be June 16th. And then we'll be doing it again in the fall. So that date will be to be determined once we know what districts are left and when they would like to go. So those are the dates that we have coming out. So whether you're ready now and you weren't ready before, just keep in contact with me about moving forward with that. So the next thing that I have is some super exciting news that I think everyone's going to like. We've been getting a lot of asks for this, and it is the translation feature. So the additional documents that we are going to be having translated in the different languages are listed here. I know the progress report was huge. That was a big one that people were asking for. And so coming soon, by coming soon, it's probably going to be more like July 1. But that's soon for our world. And so that's the list of that. So hopefully that is some exciting news that is coming forward. We've been working on that one for a while with getting it approved. And so that's what we have to look forward to this summer with those additions to the translation features. Zendesk support, just kind of wanted to cover a little bit. The chat hours are going now, they were 7 to 6, and I think I was really the only one utilizing that 5 to 6 time period. And so we weren't seeing a lot of traffic during those earlier hours for that chat, for that live agent, right? So you can put in a ticket 24/7. So if you're working in the middle of the night, you know, you could put tickets in still. There just won't be anybody to on the other end of that until the morning. And so the other update here is that there are some additional agents. Some of you might have seen this. I've been an agent for a while now in Zendesk where they can assign the ticket to me and I can kind of help out when the ticket really relates to like guidance as opposed to something in the system. And so Carolyn and Yolanda right now have access to tickets, and based on what federal report is due and when, it might change from you know Yolanda to Andrea. And so right now just trying to provide you additional support when it comes to submitting those tickets so that we're not having to submit a ticket and then wait for Nick to get back to somebody else from OSIS and then come back and forth. So trying to streamline that process just a little bit more. And with that, with closing out tickets, they won't close them out for 2 weeks until there's like a non-response. So if you know you're done, you know that you're satisfied with the answer you got, you can go ahead and close that ticket out. And then if there's another issue or an issue arises, you know, submit that ticket again or open that ticket back up. I will close out the tickets if I know that we've communicated or we've met. And then also just as a reminder, including as many details as you can. And that goes with sending me an email. So sometimes I get emails and it's like, hey, can you look at this? Or I'm having a problem with this. And then it takes a minute to find out, well, that you've already submitted a ticket. So if you're asking me to look at something, if you will let me know, hey, I've already submitted a ticket. Here's the ticket number. That's really important. And then if you're asking about a certain student, the student ID will help. Because there's been so many times where I've got an email and I'm in this prime opportunity where I have another OSIS team member, typically Sherry, and she has time to help me with a few questions. And we get to the email and I'm like, we don't have enough details to move forward. And then I'm having to respond back to you and then wait for a response. Then when you respond back to me, I may not have the support or who I need to talk to get you that answer. So just making sure that when you're sending that email and submitting that ticket, including as many details as possible, so we can get started on it right away. And then I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Oh, you know what? I think I have just a reminder that the next virtual office hours are February 19th. And then, as always, the district feedback form, we use that. We look through those. We send those. We collaborate. Just today, we looked at like, I think 6 or 7 different things that came through FormStack when we're looking at feedback or if there's an issue. We are looking at that. So I am going to stop sharing on that. I will send that PowerPoint out that I just shared when I send out the additional information from the meeting. And I'm going to turn it over to Sherry, and she's going to be talking about BabyNet and just kind of review of the changes that came with the December release. So the fabulous Sherry Evans.
Thank you, Katie. Katie and I are in the same room. If you have any trouble hearing us, let me know, and we'll change things up a little bit. I just wanted to quickly give you a little bit of input on the BabyNet changes that were made with the December release. As you are aware, originally the BabyNet form was found under student info and then BabyNet. And you see now in parentheses besides this one, it says do not use. That's because we want you to start using the new form. The new form is under eligibility reeval, and then Part C to Part B transition. And we did this based on district feedback and district request. We went through and we removed some things that were not required for federal reporting, like that BabyNet exit date. So you won't see that on this new form. And then the NA under BabyNet factors was removed. Basically, if you don't check one of these, then we know that it was a normal transition. If you check one of the BabyNet factors now, there is an ROC on the BabyNet comment box. So you'll be required to describe that below in the comments. The other change here is that you can create a final that will then appear in your documents if you want to print it. Some districts wanted a form that they could print and put in the child's file. That is not required, but you do now have the feature to be able to do that. For this school year, for the 25-26 school year, for indicator 12 reporting purposes, the report will pull from the workspace in that original form under student info, and it will pull from here because you'll have some students who were done the old way and you'll have some students who were done the new way. So for this next reporting period, it will pull from both workspaces. In the future, at the end of June, beginning of July, this old form will be removed and new reporting will only come from this form, and it will come from the most recent finalized document. But for now, for this school year, remember it will pull from both workspaces. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. The form is really relatively simple to complete, but we would love your feedback. I'd like to hear from you. And I think that's it. I think next on the agenda is progress reports. So
Yeah.
I'll stop sharing.
So, the amazing Ann Lowe, if you are ready to talk about the progress report changes that came with the December release and adding reporting periods. That's been a hot topic.
Yes, hi everybody. So as you all know, in the December release, we have done change to the way our progress reports print and the way they appear, which leads you to be able to add different reporting periods. So before you couldn't add all the reporting periods because they would all be listed across the page and you'd run out of room or they'd be blank. Now they only print if something's been added, which means that you can add progress reports periods to your progress reports. I'm just going to quick go over how to do that. If you want to add reporting periods to your wizards, you're going to go to calendar, your district's calendar. Scroll down to this edit school years. And then find the school year that you want to add that reporting period to. So this is 25-26. And this is last edit button. So right now I have the 4 quarters of the school year, but I want to add another one. I want to add the reporting period of, let's say ESY. That's a common one. I can update the database. So now ESY will be a choice here. I can also add another reporting period, and I can call this one annual review. And update the database. So now if I go into wizards, let's see if I can do this without being a case manager. Hold on, progress report card. Now I'm not a case manager right now, but you will see those progress reports, those options being a choice in wizards. If I want to change it for the school so it shows up in the document section, I can go into a student. I'm sorry, not a student. I'm going to go in here to admin to search schools. And there's a calendar next to the school name. if I select that calendar, it comes up, I can go to edit school years, and then here I can go to edit and I can add a reporting period. Now another reporting period, I'm gonna add annual review here. Update the database, and this one I can show you easily because I have students. I'll go to my poor William, and if I go to documents, IEP progress report, you will see that annual review is a choice there, and I can create that progress report. Any questions, or does anyone want me to show you how I did that again? If I went too fast?
I'm not seeing any questions, Ann. I think we're good.
All right,
I-
awesome.
Yeah, I know that came up as to how, you know, how many times can I use that? And, you know, if I want to make multiple, because the annual and the amendment one aren't there anymore. So, appreciate you going over that. And then we are gonna have, Nick, who is going to cover the review of changes from the December release, for placement.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. So Anne's going to pull up, if you can do the preschool student, and to first illustrate the changes to the placement section that happened in the December release, and then we'll go to one more student and show what happens during the amendment process, because I know we've gotten a lot of questions about this new placement feature during the amendment process. So when Anne opens up the placement tile for the student, what has changed is the bottom section, where now, rather than going through one set of guiding questions that give you one placement value, you'll be able to do a number of periods that give you a number of different placement values. So what Anne has set up here, I think, is kind of the classic example of something that was not recordable in the system prior to the release and now is. It's a student who's in pre-K right now, but will be or is slated to be in kindergarten in the fall. And what Anne has expressed here is a IEP that goes from December until this upcoming May, where the student has a pre-K placement. And then beginning at the next school year, actually beginning that next day, the way Anne has set it up, the student is inside the regular class 80% or more of the day. So now you're indicating that the student currently today is being served in this environment, but will be served in a different environment. And especially important for child count, the report now will look for whatever that day is, so the fourth Tuesday, and they'll use those date ranges. So prior to this, you were just choosing one placement, and when we would troubleshoot on tickets, I would say go look at that one placement that was chosen. Now the question and the discussion is going to be which placement period covers the fourth Tuesday. And go ahead.
So if you add a placement, you would come here and put your begin date and end date. You have to have all dates of the IEP with a placement. So for this example, yes, the student's last day of preschool was May 18th, and they don't start school again until August, but you have to have the summer dates covered in your placement, which is why I began placement on 5/19. But I can go in here and I can add the date I want it to be. So I'm saying this one was 5/19. I'm not going to save this. I already have it. And then the end date of that end of that school year, say May 29th. And then I choose how old will this student be in that placement period. So this time it's going to be in kindergarten, because this is 6 to 21, including kindergarten students who are age 5. So I chose that one. And then I can choose the placement and the school and say, and then I can add that placement.
And this question came up, so I think it's good to just transition into it now. I know you've worked with folks in Zendesk. You talked through the amendment process, what this looks like, and why people might be getting at that ROC that might seem unexpected.
I can.
Thank you.
So if you're doing an amendment to the IEP. Sorry, my internet apparently is working slower than I would like it to be. you'll see in this IEP overview, I have annual things that I put in to develop an annual IEP, and I have these dates. So when I hit amend with or without a meeting, those dates pull over and I can add those, the amendment dates in.
To register for Zoo Camp.
If you did not create your IEP in EdPlan, if you added your dates and edit key dates, this IEP information for annual review won't be there. So as you go through the amendment process, when you get to your placement page, it doesn't have these dates to reference. And it doesn't really care for that. So if you don't have those dates in there under develop annual review, you will most likely get an error message that says you have to add the placement and with dates, even though you didn't touch placement for this IEP. To fix that, you go to that IEP overview page, select develop an annual IEP and put in those annual dates, save it, and then you continue with your amendment and it won't give you placement errors. Is that clear as mud?
Yeah, that covered what I was going to discuss. Seeing discussion in the chat about typing versus selecting. It seems that the weekends are gray numbers, so you can't like click on a weekend. So that's great feedback for us. I'll take that back to our team and see if we can make those weekends clickable. And even if they aren't clickable, Lindy beat me to it by just a second. You can type in the day. So if you are seeing that there's a gap, or one of your case managers has a gap that they can't fill in because they can't click on a Saturday, they can type in the numeric date of that Saturday, and I'll see if we can get that clickable, because I appreciate that's frustrating.
So I'm seeing in the chat that this solution doesn't apply to some of your specific instances. I am hoping that they have tickets. I see that you have tickets entered in for us to look at, and I will go back to, I meet with Zendesk ticket people and go back and continue to look at those. This was a solution that we did find when looking at tickets, but we will go back and look at what you're referencing.
Yeah, so far, because I've been tracking a few tickets as well, and so far they've all been different issues or individual issues that like there was another part of the process that was missed. Is that how to say that? And maybe, or like edit key dates was used, and so that caused some problems.
Yeah.
So we're looking into why we're seeing so many tickets with amendments.
Yes. And it's not everyone, because I know I was able to complete amendment without adding placement, but there are particular circumstances where I've no doubt that this has happened, and we just need to really dig in. Once again, please include the student ID in any ticket that you send with this. That way we can look in and do a deeper look into that particular student and what happened.
Yeah, and so Catherine, I'm not seeing, I have not seen any tickets, and I have not heard from anyone that for special reviews, the system's defaulting to adding nursing services. And so if you're seeing that, then you need to please put in a ticket with the student ID, so we can look at that specific issue. Because we've not heard that. Oh, there we go. Somebody else just said, Laura did. So Dorchester 2 is also having that issue. So we will write that down and see. But again, if you can send the student ID as to what students it's happening with, that helps us with investigating it quicker and not having to try to recreate it. Because sometimes we'll try to recreate something and it just won't trigger that error. We have to be in that district's instance, that's that student, to see what's happening. So Kim, we're looking at that. Like, you shouldn't have to add more dates, right? Like it should cover the whole span. So we're looking into that. And so if you're seeing that submitting a ticket is very helpful, because the more tickets we have, the more issues that we can look at, see what's going on, and make sure everything's functioning the way we want it to function. And that we're not, missing a step, or that's something, what other guidance we need to put out. So with the calculator, we are looking at development to add a calculator back in that doesn't, it's kind of a separate piece. So there was a lot of feedback about the way the calculator was working and what teachers were selecting. And so based on the feedback, it was adjusted, and the LRE was set up differently. And now the feedback is, well, we like the calculator, but we don't want them to have to select what the calculator is choosing. And so setting it up in a different way. So something is we are looking into that piece of it. Let's see what else. Okay, I think we're caught up with the chat. Which brings us to the transfer compliance symbol, which I have changed on the agenda to be an update on the transfer compliance symbol. So the transfer compliance symbol went out on Friday. We had a lot of feedback from districts with it's populating for these students, and it shouldn't be. And so it didn't fit into the one size fits all of how we are handling transfers across the state. And so we turned it off last night. So you shouldn't be seeing any more students populating that compliance symbol. It is a core function, so you will still see it when you're doing like student search. Those symbols will still be there. They're just not turned on. And so when you search just for that category, it shouldn't be pulling students. So I appreciate the feedback. Seeing the feedback and hearing the conversations and having the conversations with a lot of you made me realize that I think that we need to put out some more guidance related to what happens when you get a transfer student from in-state versus out of state. How should that look? What is the requirement? And so I've set up meetings internally to kind of look at that, to make sure that we have some written guidance going out about that information. So that is the transfer compliance symbol. So from that, and we are going to move on to that consent denial with recent eval. So I'll kick it back over to you.
All right, I got that right here. So we have recently had a number of questions about what do you do when you go through eligibility determination, the parent denies consent for services, and then something happens in the next couple of weeks that they come back and say, actually, I want services, and how to do that efficiently in the system. So I've set up a student here that I have completed a referral through eligibility determination, and this parent denied consent for services. So I'm coming back in here to initial eligibility. And I'm going to start from the very beginning, because once that denial has been made, that student is no longer eligible. It's like no eligibility for that student. So I need to start from evaluation planning. I go through evaluation planning. I change, of course, the evaluation planning date and the referral date, because the referral date would be the day that the parent came back and said, hey, I'm interested. And then the planning date would be different. You put in your information, update everything, because something may have changed in the weeks between when you had your eligibility meeting and now. Oh, I do want to go back and make sure that I say, this is for something that happened recently. You wouldn't come back in 2 years and do this. It's like, ooh, a recent event within the current time frame where you can use your evaluation results as part of the eligibility determination. So you just fill in everything, update everything, and when you get to the bottom of the screen, I'm sorry about the scrolling. You're going to say that you suspect a disability, what disability, and is additional information needed? And this is where you're going to put your no, because you have all your information. Complete all the information, and then I don't want you to go back to the tiles and think you have to go to every tile. I just want you to hit this green arrow at the top, and it automatically takes you to this eligibility determination page. Fill in your eligibility determination information. Choose your eligibility. Everything else you need to choose. A lot of it will still be in there. It might not have changed at all. And then come down and you can create your final. And now your final eligibility determination is created. Got my document. And if I go into the student and go into documents, I will see the finalized eligibility planning that was just done, and then that eligibility determination. I think that there is a confusion sometimes that you have to go through each tile and update each tile, especially if one of the tiles is like red, which happens sometimes. But in this circumstance, you don't have to go to these two tiles, just evaluation planning and eligibility determination. Now you notice the consent provision for services tile has now appeared because of my finalized eligibility determination. And once I create my consent for services, I can come in and enter that information. I don't know if I've lost anyone in all of that or if I need to show it again.
I don't see any questions.
Any
And I think,
questions?
yeah, I think that was great. And I think those people that run into this problem, will understand what you're talking about. If you haven't had this problem happen yet,
Mhm.
then it might be a little, but this was an item, if you're following along in the agenda, that was added, because we had an uptick in tickets regarding issues when, there's been that denial and then a turnaround to say, never mind, we've changed our minds. And so, how that looks and works. So wanted to share that information so that you all were aware of kind of the easier way to go about that. And then not seeing any questions in the chat related to that, we're going to move on to paperclip. And Nick's going to talk about running some paperclip reports.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. So I'll screen share my screen, and what you are going to see is the standard report view for a power user. So if you are a power user, you click into standard reports. That's where I am. And then inside of this listing, there's two different reports, and I'm going to show you where to find each of them, and then I'm going to show you the output of each of them from our training site. And these are meant to help you understand how much of your paperclip allocation you've used so far this year, and then like the details of that use. If it's a really high number, why is it so high? The combination of these two reports can help you do that. So the first one is the paperclip details report. This, as the name suggests, will give you a lot of detail. It's going to have one row per document that's been uploaded. So if you've had 100,000 PDFs uploaded this year, this report will give you 100,000 rows. Really, really big. And the second report is the paperclip usage report. This just looks month by month. So there'll be like 12 rows, one per month. And that will tell you overall how much of your storage has been used in that month. So I'm going to flip open one of the reports first, and these are all from the training site. So if you see anything resembling names, these are not real students, not real information. This is the details report. So it'll list the student that received the upload, the name of the document that was uploaded, the PDF or the type of that document, and then the size. The size is a little less useful because this is in bytes. So you have to do some kind of like computer math to make that useful. But the bigger number, right? It's a bigger thing. If it's a big number, it's a big file. And then the second report is a little simpler, a little easier to digest, and that is just by month. So this is on the training site, which is still set to last year for this report. So that's why you're seeing the old dates. But this tells you per month the total usage in bytes. So you can easily see which months you're getting the most use out of. So this report can tell you high level where you're getting the most uploads or if you've uploaded a ton of stuff. This will help you see that. And then the details report will help you understand how that's happening. If depending on your Excel proficiency, you can make like a pivot table, find your top uploaders because their names are in there. So you could see if that one psychologist is uploading a bunch of documents, you can tell who that is. So those are those two reports and how you can use those to help manage paperclip in your district. And I think any questions, Katie, come to you. You kind of help folks understand their current paperclip status. Is that right?
Yep. And you can look, and it'll give you a little snippet when you're in like your account info. And so you can kind of see where you're at. And so we're starting to see some districts that are over more than half of their usage for the year. And so with us still having quite a bit of school year left, just kind of wanting to watch that. And in that first report that Nick had showed you, if you see that there is a teacher that maybe uploaded everything but the kitchen sink, right? You can go in and inactivate those uploads, and that will give you your paperclip back. And it'll keep those inactive documents in behind the scenes. So they're still there if they for some reason needed to be reactivated. But it will give you your paperclip back. And so if you have somebody who uploaded, just a huge document that ate a lot of your paperclip. So one of the asks from one of the districts was, what is OSIS recommending that we upload into the system? Some districts they don't upload anything. They have another storage place for this. So some districts are doing different things. And so Peter said that, for me to get with Lisa. And so I've been working with Lisa and Sherry and Isla on a list of what would be recommended. And so it would be things like, outside evaluations and definitely like all of your signature pages. But some of you might already store those somewhere else. And so, again, we'll push out a list when it's ready, but it's just a recommendation because you are deciding what, you're going to put in there versus what you're going to put somewhere else. Some people still have file cabinets. So it just depends on what meets the needs at your district. But looking at what kinds of things do we think that should be in the system or that you would want to hang on to. So we are looking at that as I said, one of the districts had reached out and asked for that. Any questions about paperclip or?
You've got a couple of questions.
Oh. Correct. So Amy, if you upload an external IEP document for out of state, you can inactivate it and not lose it. Yes, it'll just be like any other document. It'll be, I want to say in the back door, but behind the scenes, I think is a better analogy, right, Nick? You help me with this.
Yeah, that's right.
So it'll be behind the scenes. And so you can always bring it back on stage if you want, and you get your paperclip back. It's a great way to maximize your paperclip. Liddy has said, what are the dates we should enter for the paperclip reports for this school year? July 1 was new paperclip.
Yeah. July 1 to June 30. Yeah. I'll type that in, Liddy.
Yeah. And July 1, and that's what'll happen again. I think we're gonna probably do the same refresh for paperclip, like that July 1 date. If you're seeing that you're close, please reach out. Nick has created a report for me to run so I can kind of look at each district instead of individually of where they're at. But I'd rather get something figured out before you can't upload anymore because it will stop you. So if you've hit that threshold, if you've met your quota, it won't allow you to upload until some more is added. And so just working on that. with you on how to get some added. I did hold some back. I don't know if it'll be enough for everyone as much as everyone needs until the end of the year, but I do have some in case we run out, because this year is our first really true year of looking at how much paperclip does it take. Because last year people were throwing things in there from EdPlan. You know, we had that free unlimited time period. And so those numbers kind of impacted the other numbers. And so this is like that true picture of how much paperclip are you really using. And so looking at that. All right, so I think that's it for paperclip. And so Nick, you're gonna do a little run through of the AR exit report and how to keep up with modifying those exit reasons.
Yeah, definitely. So screen share here, I've pre-run the report and then I'll go back and show you how I got to where I was. But I want to make sure I'm only showing the training site. So that's why I'm going to share with you a complete report and then I'll take you through the steps of how I got here. This is a report that exists in the state shared folder. So this is out there for everyone to run right now. And it's not the exact table 4 report. It doesn't have all the formatting and it's not in the exact format that OSIS team needs it to submit, but it is the basic same idea. And this report will show you students who have exited your district within a set of dates. So when I first loaded this report, and what you didn't see was that when I press run, it gives me 2 prompts for beginning and end date. So I just set those 2 weeks away. Today is the 15th, and I looked back 2 weeks. And on the training site, I don't get very much information at all. But if you do this, you should get quite a bit of information. And this just shows the students that have left your district in that time period. And the column that says exit reason and exit reason code, these will come from PowerSchool. So those will be like the W36 or the W32 reasons that come from your PowerSchool instance to EdPlan. And then if you're modifying the exit reason, that will show up in the last column. So this gets the same spirit of the table 4. It doesn't look the exact same, but you could, run this every Monday morning, have it set to the last week. You could see who's my students that have come and went in the last week, and do I need to modify them? I'm going to really quickly switch my screen and show you how to get there. I want to see if there's any questions about that report itself. It's called Student Exit.
And Nick, while you're moving over that way, I'm just going to let everybody know that I am halfway done with a shared folder list, kind of like what we have for the standard report. So I just have been taking the list of the shared reports and then opening them up to see what fields they're populating so that you can run through the list, see what field do I need? Oh, this report has it. And then also adding some descriptions to some of those reports. So we are working on that. There is another report coming out soon it's for special considerations, and it'll have tabs and it'll pull all the information for like communication, behavior, why am I saying it like that? Transportation. And so it'll have different tabs. So that's another new report that's coming out. So we are working on additional reports pretty consistently.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. Then this bottom section here is how I got to where I started. It's a good one to build into like a weekly or maybe a monthly routine. It just helps you understand who's left your system recently. And then if you're doing some sort of ongoing modification of the exit reasons, like each month or each week, you can do it via this report. And then if you check the next day, you'll see that what you added will show up in the report. So it's kind of a good progress tracker throughout the year. All right, Katie, I lost my agenda, so I very well might be next, but I can't actually see that, so I'm not sure.
No, you're good. It's actually Sherry and I.
There we go. All right.
So you're good. You have a breather. You can take a drink real quick. So we want to talk about the snapshot, and I'm going to share my screen real quick. We want to just talk about the snapshot for the eligibility determination, because we've got some questions about that. And so we have our student pulled up, and we received consent today, which is going to trigger then that we have 75 days remaining to eligibility. And so this is where it's causing some confusion. And so what we want to kind of go over and explain is that it's showing 75 days to eligibility. And so it's giving that calendar dates. And what's going to happen is until you finalize that evaluation, it's not really going to give you that accurate eligibility date, because once you finalize that evaluation, then it's going to go into your 15 school days and it's going to populate that new date. So we are working in development to actually have an an evaluation due date as well. And so on the snapshot, so you would see the evaluation due date when the evaluation is actually due, and then that eligibility will change as soon as the evaluation one is complete. And so just bringing that to everyone's attention, because we've gotten a couple, I think, tickets and form stack links and emails about how is this populating, because it's causing some confusion with when the eval is due or when the eligibility is actually due. And so that eligibility would be due 15 school days following that evaluation completion date. So looking to enhance that, I think, we've been getting a lot of requests to add things to the student snapshot. I think that was one of the things that was added, not realizing in as much as that with adding that, it really doesn't give you that accurate date until you have another date before that date. So that's kind of just a quick explanation of that piece. Not seeing any questions or comments about that. So Nick, I will send it back over to you to kind of go over this BIP standard report that is now available in standard reports.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. All right. So I'm not going to show the output of this report, but I will show where to run it. I believe we've talked about this on one prior office hour just before it was released, and now it has been. That is the BIP report that is underneath the special education category. So again, I'm in as a power user, and I'm underneath special education category, choosing the BIP report. There's one thing you'll notice about this report, and then one thing that if you see this, we'd appreciate your feedback. The first thing about this report is that right now it's set to generate overnight. So when I click it, I don't get the normal screen that I expect to schedule it. It just says it's going to run tonight. We looked into this after seeing reports of this happening, and we believe that we're going to be able to update this to run during the day. We're doing some final testing with our team to make sure it doesn't influence performance, because if you're a power user like you all on this call and you press run, you're getting the results for every student in your district. Any student that has, yes, checked on the behavior special consideration, which can be thousands. So we're testing to make sure the system can handle that midday. And if it can, that will run during the day. It's one of our bigger reports, which is why this is one of the first times we're talking about this. And then the second thing we've gotten a few cases of, not many, but if you're hearing of this from your staff, we'd appreciate a Zendesk ticket about it, where sometimes, depending on how folks have typed in the goals that pull into this report. So there's a goal tagged with behavior as the type. And if that goal has like a tab inside of it or a return inside of it, so inside of the goal, someone hit a enter and made a new space, that can throw off how your report is printing out. So if you are seeing strange data in the columns, like it looks like the goal looks normal and then it breaks, please let us know on the person who ran that and then when they ran that report, because it most often has to do with if the goal itself has a tab character in it, or if the goal itself has a new line character. The person pressed enter when they were making it. That can give a few difficulties. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about, awesome. If you do know what I'm talking about, please let us know and submit a ticket.
All right, and with the BIP standard report, so if anyone's tried to run it, you'll see that it auto says like I'm running it at midnight. And so Nick's gonna have an update for me soon about what's gonna happen with that. But that is the only standard report right now that it just auto populates running it at night. So just so you're aware. So we are looking at that piece of it. All right, Nick, it is still you because you're going to talk about advanced reporting. I'm going to talk about the upcoming webinar registration. So if you haven't registered yet, do that. We are really looking Nick and I met with Beth and looking at what people are saying, what people are wanting. And so getting clarity, I've reached out to a few people after reading the comments to get some more clarification. So when you're filling that out, any details, like, some people are like, I want to learn it all. And so that's great. But if there's something that's very specific, it has been really helpful. The same thing with the one for the BIP webinar. We are very much looking at the feedback and the information that's coming out of that registration. So, okay. All right. The fabulous Nick. It's your turn.
Right. Thanks, Katie. Just gonna do a quick overview, and we're trying to work in like a small chunk of AR to every office hour. Because we find it's more manageable in chunks, and it's more manageable when we see it consistently. So this is that small chunk of AR in this office hour. If you have questions on anything I'm saying, let me know. I think we'll have a little extra time to address them. But I wanted to just broadly again show where all these shared reports are, and then look at 2 of them kind of in detail and how they can maybe be helpful to you in your district. So first, talking about where these reports are. To get here, I think by this point, a lot of folks have done this, but if not, inside of the system, you'll click on reports. And then when you get to the main reporting page with the 3 tiles, you'll click the tile on the far right. It says EdPlan SC Insights. That launches this system, and then I get to what I'm seeing here by clicking on the folders. So if you've clicked other documents, you'll see them pop up that first page, but when you click on this, you'll get to your personal folder. I have a lot of stuff in there, but what we care about is the public folders. Inside of public, you would click on SCDE State Reports. Inside of here, you would see 2 folders, one that looks like mine that says State Shared, and then this one would say your district name. And we want to go into the one that says State Shared. And then once you're here, this is the list of reports that are shared in the folder. So they're just out there for you to run. You don't have to do any changes. As Katie mentioned, we're working on descriptions for each of them, because right now you can read the title and usually get a pretty good idea. We're trying to do a little bit more detailed description of what each of them do. And then today I want to talk about caseload and the district assessment participation reports. And also make a plug to just watch Katie's emails, because as she mentioned, we're developing new reports all the time that are being shared and added to this folder. So that if you don't have something that addresses your needs, let us know. We might be able to help accommodate those. So the first one I want to look at is the district assessment report. And this is information I imagine, and I again want to be clear, this is all training data you're seeing on the screen, no real students. Other districts or other folks in your district might be asking you for this information. You might have your Office of Assessment asking if you can get a report of accommodations on MAP or on iReady. This report serves that purpose with a few nuances and a few things you should be aware of if you're using this data or if you're giving it to someone else in your district to use. The first thing is that the district assessments inside of EdPlan are text-based. They're not list-based. So the state assessments, you don't get to pick what goes on that page. You don't get to choose how it's spelled. You have to say for each assessment on that page how you're participating. District assessments are different, where when you open up that assessment page, it has a little text line where you can type your own assessment name, which is good for flexibility, and then perhaps not as good for your assessment coordinators if they want everything to look the same way. So an example of the caution I'll give here is on this 4th line. And Katie, I can see your face, so I'm going to ask you, is this big enough to read what I'm looking at? Or is this so small you can't see what I'm doing?
I'm good. I can see it.
Okay. So this 4th line, whoever typed it in typed iReady with no extra punctuation. And then like this 15th line, there's a dash, right? Someone typed I-ready. If your assessment team is trying to use this in an automated way, that will likely frustrate them. The computer won't automatically know that iReady is the same as I-ready. So if you're ever taking this data and giving it to another department in your district, I would highlight that for them. Let them know that the name of the test is an open text field. It'll be spelled differently. A lot of times there's ways to deal with that, and your teams can help get around that. But it's important to note that people are going to spell things different ways. The second note is that there can be multiple rows per student and per test. And if a student has multiple accommodations, that can sometimes be split onto multiple rows. So you'll see here that Angelina shows up twice because Angelina has iReady Math and iReady Reading accommodations. If a student has accommodations on iReady Math, all of those accommodations are going to show up in the same cell. So you'll see that here it has oral admin, individual admin, and preferential seating. Those all get jammed into the same cell. So it's one row per student per test. Within that row, there can be multiple accommodations. Are there any questions or thoughts on that? I'm going to pause, Katie. I can't see the chat, so I'm not sure if we have any questions about this one.
Nothing yet.
Okay, sounds good. Then the second one I pre-ran was the caseload report. So I'm going to switch over there now. And this is split into two different tabs at the top. So when you open up the caseload report, and this is for all students on the training site, you'll see there's a tab that says caseload and then a tab that says no case manager. The second tab, the no case manager tab, is looking for students that have special education data that don't have a case manager. So this is not just finding every single student, because this would be a huge tab in most of your sites. This would be every student who is not involved with IDEA. You know, they would not have a case manager. But this tab looks for students who have an eligibility at least, who don't have a case manager. It's a good way to catch students who may be transferred in and don't have someone assigned to them yet in the system. And then the other tab, the caseload tab, are those students who do have a case manager, and it's organized by staff member. So it's a little hard to envision here because these are fake names, but each table you see is a different person, and that different person's caseload is beneath them. So here you would expect to see in your system a list of your staff members who have a caseload, and then beneath them some basic information about that caseload. A few other things you can quickly do from these filters right above those tabs. So before I was switching between the caseload and no case manager tab, above each of those, there's a few filters if you just want to cut it down to certain schools. So I don't want to change anything else. But let's say I just want to see Aikens Training School. I can quickly filter that way. And then if I quickly want to filter down to certain people within that school, I can do that on the second filter. All right. I can see my chat now. So Liddy,
Okay,
I see your question. Does this caseload report only list students a provider is the case manager for? I believe yes. When I stop screen sharing, Liddy, I'll confirm that. I don't think this looks at the team. I think this is just organized around that case manager. So it's not saying who this person is a team member of. I think that's what you're asking. If you could let me know in the chat, that would be helpful. But I believe this is just case manager, not team. There a better way to get a full caseload of people for SLPs? Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. So I think, Lydia, I'm understanding your need being you want to look at all people of a certain role in your school, like SLPs or PTs, and see if they're the case manager, if they're a team member, any involvement, no matter the nature of that involvement. Is that what you're asking for?
That's what I'm thinking too, Nick, like
Yeah.
not just the case
Providers.
manager, the whole
Yeah.
the whole team.
Yeah.
Yeah, if the
very
wrong
good
person
point.
looks at this, they'll think that an SLP has 22 kids on their caseload when really they might have 60.
Sure.
You know what I
So
mean? So it
case
is just that case
manager.
manager.
Yeah, let me confirm that. I'm going to screen share and then Lydia, I'll follow up in the chat. Make sure I tell you which one this is actually doing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's case manager, but I'm wondering if there's an AR, we'd have to pull like, I'm trying to think what fields we would pull.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
maybe
that might be something that, maybe that's my next build.
that's right. That's
I've been
right.
dabbling in the AR.
Does
Lydia,
the
I think-
advanced student search not give you what you're looking for that?
Yeah, so I think maybe the thing we're solving for here, Lydia, is just we should rename this report because it says caseload, but I think your contention correctly is that like if you're a provider and you run this, this is not your caseload. This is just who you're the case manager of. So maybe we just need to tweak that name. Because yeah, Lindy, I'm seeing you're saying in the chat, there is a standard report that does this. And then Anne is correct. You can use the search. But Lydia, your
There
point
is
is a
the-
good one, is we should
But
maybe
it's-
rename this.
There's a caseloads report, the standard report.
Yeah, I can pull that up and share.
And if
Sorry,
you do the
Anne.
advanced
Go ahead.
search, you can search by speech, you can search by PT and OT. What it's not going to show you is what therapist is working with that student, because I don't think that that's documented on the IEP. It's
Right,
documented that they
Optionally,
get
team.
services.
Yeah, it would just, you'd be
Yeah.
able to pull their team, but not, yeah, and you can pull what services they're getting. Are they getting speech, OTPT, but not which provider?
Melissa, I'm seeing your comment. You're running the one in the advanced reporting, the one I just showed, or are you running the one in the standard reports? I think you're running the advanced one if I'm guessing. AR. Okay. Let me check into that. So you're saying you see a kid with a revocation that's still showing. I'll check with our reporting folks. Thanks, Melissa.
It might be an adjustment to the filter.
Yeah.
One of the reports that's available in the shared folder is the exit option. Oh, now I gotta look at the list. And so I just wanted to remind people that it was there and it was available because it's very helpful if you're looking at possibly what students you haven't made that diploma option decision for, making that diploma option by the end of 8th grade, getting ready for 9th grade. You can kind of run that report. And I was working with a district the other day and we kind of looked at that and looking at, okay, what 8th graders do I have that we still haven't made this decision on? Or if for some reason it was early 8th grade and, you're going to come back later. So running that towards, in the next couple of months, getting ready for the end of the year, just making sure that you've made that decision, that would be helpful, I think, in preparing them for, 9th grade. The other one that we're looking at, and I think this would be helpful, is and I know there's other districts that have done this, but trying to make this report, so pushing this is probably the next one that I'm going to work on to have Beth put out in the shared folder, but is you can pull all of the post-secondary goals. So what's helpful is you can see them all right there, run through them. So like if you're getting reviewed for indicator 13 next year, you can make a report, pull all 3 of those goals, and then see, okay, who doesn't have an independent living goal? That's okay. Okay, maybe they should have one. And then looking at them and reading them to see, are these compliant? And then kind of helping you with that indicator 13 review. So that's kind of what we're looking at with AR is how can we help you use it and what reports can we run that will help you have tools when it comes to compliance. All right, I'm not seeing any other new questions in the chat, Nick.
No, I'm not either. I'm gonna
Okay.
drop one in the chat. It just kind of gets at what you're getting at. It's not how that shared report works. So I want to make sure I highlight that. But team information is in AR, whether you're the case manager or just a member of the team. It's underneath the current workspace folder, student personal information, and then the team information subfolder. There's those 3 fields. The report you saw me share is built off case manager, but there's also that third one, relationship, and that will help tell you if you're just a team member rather than the case manager. But the report that's shared is built on case manager. I want to be clear on that.
All right, so that is all we have for our agenda today. If there's any other questions related to advanced reporting or anything else that was on the agenda, if you'll drop those in the chat. We're gonna give you some of your time back today. And we were like, oh, this is a jam-packed agenda. We never know how fast we're gonna get through it. So without seeing any more questions in the chat, we'll hang on for a few more minutes. I'll get this recording out to you as soon as I get it back. And I'll be sending some other information out with the updated agenda. And I hope everyone has a wonderful evening and has been having an amazing 2026. Thank you, everyone.
you already said? Don't tell me.
Hi, Miss Heiss.
Yes.
This is Mrs. Barnett from Chester County School District. Should
Hello.
I schedule maybe, hi, how are you?
Good.
That's good. Should I maybe schedule a time for us to maybe meet via Teams to look at those concerns as far as those numbers, and or should I just wait until maybe tomorrow or next week to see if they subside since the Senate has been removed?
No, yeah, we can set up a time. I was gonna go in there today. I just didn't get a chance today's like my all day meetings and then office hours to go in and, run to see what you're seeing. But I'm available tomorrow if